In this presentation, I want to talk about two pieces of emerging information technology that I found very interesting, and that's Bitcoin and blockchain. So everyone's heard of Bitcoin, but what is it? It's a cryptocurrency that was invented in 2009. A mysterious person or persons under the alias of Satoshi Nakamoto posted the source code for Bitcoin and blockchain on an internet forum. His identity was never discovered. The unique thing about Bitcoin is that it completely cuts out the middleman. There's no banks or credit card companies or any kind of financial company involved in the transaction. You can use Bitcoin completely anonymously. You don't have to provide your name, your social security number, or have an account. You just have to have the encryption key that goes along with your Bitcoins. And as I mentioned, the underlying technology that powers Bitcoin is called blockchain. So Satoshi Nakamoto, the real identity of this person or persons was never discovered. They posted the source code, and even in the kind of burgeoning Bitcoin community online, Satoshi was always very reclusive and no one really knew much about him. And then as the popularity of Bitcoin started to take off, he just disappeared off the face of the earth. So we're really left with no one to kind of provide a direction or help us understand where Bitcoin is going in the future. There's no face of Bitcoin. So you might be saying, wait, how does this cryptocurrency work? So Bitcoins are not printed by a government or anything like that. They're actually mined at a predetermined rate by people with computers that they connect to the blockchain system. The blockchain is made of this complex algorithm that controls the rate of new Bitcoins being made. So they're always made at about the same rate. Once you have mined a Bitcoin, it's just a piece of encrypted data that you can store in a digital wallet. And generally, this is just something you save to a hard drive and hopefully make a backup copy of. Once you have the code, you can do anything you want with it. You could gift it to someone. Online storage kind of wallets started popping up where you could, pay a certain percentage to store your bitcoins online. Exchanges started popping up where speculators would buy bitcoins from you. Some people even printed them out on paper and locked them in a vault. Why would anyone want these bitcoins? Well, for one, it's totally anonymous. So again, for some people, that's going to be a big draw. You don't have to provide any of your information to these financial powers in order to use bitcoins. There's no transaction fees. So if you're a small business making, a small margin on your sales already, cutting off that 1.7% or the 2% that you're paying to credit card companies every time you swipe someone's debit card has to be attractive. It's a transparent, tamper-proof, and public record. So obviously that's just attractive as we're moving towards more digital transactions all the time. And you can imagine that a sort of libertarian or anarchist type of person might be very interested in a currency that's completely decoupled from nation states and there's no manipulation of interest rates or inflation or anything like that. So you can kind of see the spirit behind Bitcoin at around the time it took off. The economy was totally wrecked. No one was entrusting Wall Street or the government to know what to do. And this was kind of an alternative that a lot of people really put a lot of hope into. So Bitcoin was kind of a niche thing until about 2011 or so, at which point it just took off and the value just skyrocketed overnight as all these speculators were trying to get into the Bitcoin market. Then we ran into some problems with Bitcoin, as you can see for the couple years there in the middle. It's really tapered off, and then it's had this kind of slow, steady climb back. So what went wrong was that Bitcoin is again designed to be um, inflated only at a certain predetermined rate. So the algorithm actually discourages a lot of people from trying to mine Bitcoin at any one time. People were building these insane computer rigs that were specialized hardware designed to get the Bitcoins as efficiently as possible. But when multiple people, or many, many people, started doing this at once, the rate that each person was getting a Bitcoin dropped drastically. So the people that had these rigs are often paying much more in their hardware costs and their electrical bills every month than they were able to recoup from Bitcoin. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, just no one really knew what was going on with Bitcoin, there was no established systems. No one knew what to really do with their Bitcoins to keep them safe and secure. So we have all these anecdotal stories or stories in the news of someone that just lost a hard drive or just tossed their old computer in the trash, not really remembering that they had accumulated some Bitcoins when they really weren't worth any money, only to then see a news story that they were coming back and realize, oh, I actually had, millions of dollars of Bitcoins on my hard drive that I lost. And then some of the exchanges, no one really knew who these people were. They were getting hacked and they were kind of collapsing. So the whole market was just very volatile. Another challenge was that because it's completely anonymous, the dark web and sites like the Silk Road, which is an illicit drug trade online, Bitcoin became the coin of the realm for these kind of sites because it's completely anonymous. So that scared off a lot of legitimate investors from viewing this as a safe investment. Overall, I think the big problem is that there's just none of these middlemen. There's no one to guarantee these transactions. It's caveat emptor, which is Latin, I guess, for buyer beware, basically, right? You know that you're going to send someone Bitcoin, and that part of the transaction is guaranteed, but you have no guarantee if the person is who they say they are, or that they're going to give you what you are paying for. So we're left with Bitcoin having this very uncertain future. We know that there's about 5,000 nodes that are connecting to the blockchain at any one time, but the estimates range from anywhere from 5,000 people to 100,000 people that are actively using and trying to mine Bitcoin. In spite of all that, the value of Bitcoins in circulation today is almost $15 billion, which is certainly a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of the international economy, probably more of a drop in the bucket than a real force. I think the real story in the future is going to be the blockchain. So the blockchain is the technology that Bitcoin works from. And the idea is it's this digital ledger in which the transactions can be recorded chronologically and publicly. So the key part is that the ledger is distributed, meaning it's not stored in any one place. Everyone has access to it. And each link in the blockchain is dependent on all the other links. It's generated from the code that's generated from the code of the block before that. So you can't cheat or you can't change a single block without changing all the other ones. And since everyone has the blockchain, it's basically impossible to tamper with. So I have this quote from the Harvard Business Review, and it's pretty heady stuff, but basically they don't see it as this disruptive technology that's going to come in and change everything. They see it more as the future of basically the big middlemen, and they're going to use this basically to make the bureaucracy that allows the world economy and world finances to run just much more efficient. So rather than changing everything, just making all that back end processing much more efficient. And I would highlight that the sentence that says, intermediaries like lawyers, brokers, and bankers might no longer be necessary. Notice it doesn't say that banks will no longer be necessary. So I think you're still going to have the huge institutions making their money, just like they always have. They're just going to be able to lose a lot of white collar work along with all the blue collar work that's already being lost in the economy. So I think what we're going to have to figure out at some point is if all the blue collar work is automated and all the white collar work is replaced with things like the blockchain, who is actually going to be buying things and causing these transactions to occur anyway? That's something we're probably going to have to figure out.